Okay, Alisa, we are live. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. So, where are you now? It's a bunch of time that we don't see each other.
Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 years, I think. I'm in Spain. I'm in the Spanish countryside, in the middle of nowhere because I'm far from any city. It's week 8 of my confinement. I'm okay because I can go outside, so I'm lucky. I miss seeing and touching other people that are not my husband, but that's okay. And you,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
I'm in Moscow. I'm arrested because I lost the count, frankly speaking, how many weeks I'm spending at home. But I'm trying to. Of course, I'm working, and I'm trying to work on podcast, even in this new format, like with video, just to see old friends as you and colleagues or other interesting people, because it's very interesting to share like our experience even in this difficult time. So just to introduce yourself, you are a slow living advocate, but can you explain what is slow?
Well, there are different definitions.
It's an acronym. It's an acronym, yeah.
Yeah, it is an acronym. Let's start with that. I'm not slow. I tweaked a little bit the definition so it fits the categories I write about. But originally, slow living movement came from slow food movement, which originated in Italy in the 80s and in the 90s. Yeah. And the definition was S stands for sustainability, L stands for local, O is organic, and W is whole foods. I changed it a little bit. So S is sustainable fashion, L is low waste, O organic beauty, and W whole foods.
Okay.
And these are the things I write about and talk about and, well, everything about, because it has become my lifestyle, not just things I write about, you know.
Okay, but can you tell us how came I met you in Moscow a bunch of time ago, I mean several years ago, and you were in the aviation sector, doing quite well, quite good. You were a successful woman, but how come to move from the aviation sector to this new, let me say, field?
Yeah. Well, when I lived in Moscow, I worked as a corporate flight attendant, and it was fun, but it was super stressful. I did not have a healthy lifestyle because instead of reducing stress by doing sport, I would go to a party, and that's how we met. And I had to quit my job because I was moving to Spain because my back then boyfriend was Spanish. And I had to quit my job because they would not allow me to be based in here. I had to be based in Moscow. Okay. I moved, and the first year I was just learning the language. And since I had a student visa, I could not work. No one would hire me for 4 hours. So I had a lot of time to think, and I stumbled upon a documentary called The True Cost by Andrew Morgan. And this documentary talks about the impact of fast fashion on the environment and on people as well, like the ethics in the fashion industry. And Andrew was talking about horrifying things like Rana Plaza collapse. It was a big fashion factory in Bangladesh, and I think in 2013, yeah, it collapsed and it killed more than 1,000 people. And he talked about the impact of pesticides used in the cotton industry, the impact of pesticides on our food and on farmers. Farmers are dying, and the land is dying, and the food we eat is losing its nutritious value, So I read it all. I was like, okay, life is not the same anymore. I gotta do something. What can I do? And that's how it started.
Yeah.
So,
You focus more on fashion, on sustainable fashion. So can you tell us more? What does it mean, be an advocate for sustainable fashion?
All right. So sustainable fashion, or I prefer to call it slow fashion, because there's ethics and sustainability, and ethical fashion is not always sustainable, and sustainable fashion is not always ethical. So calling it slow means in general taking a more mindful approach to fashion and what you wear. And it's the opposite of fast fashion, the model when brands relocate their productions to third world countries and they pay 20 cents a day to someone to produce something, and then the CEOs they swim in money, And slow fashion also includes like not necessarily buying new ethically or sustainably made clothing, but also making the most of what you already have and buying secondhand clothes, because this is the most sustainable option, using what is already produced, using what already exists. And I write about I have my focus on slow fashion because it's a message that is easier to transmit, because no matter where I take a picture, what I'm wearing is going to be seen, And when I also write about zero waste, and I write about it a lot as well, but that would require a certain setting, taking a picture, because my main platform is Instagram, and it's very imagery focused, and not everyone reads captions. They like the picture, and if they like the picture, they read the caption. So just through fashion, it's easier,
Can I ask you a question? I mean,
sure,
is it easy to associate like new trend and sustainable fashion? Because you said we can buy secondhand goods, no? I mean, in terms of clothes, shoes, and so on, and be trendy. Because nowadays we are living in the era of image. I mean, how we are we have to be. We are super presented in this social network. No, Instagram is just picture, and we share our picture, place that we visit, or how we look like. So how we can use this new trend, no, slow trend, and be, let me say, fashionable.
Yeah, I asked the same question to my friend in the States, because she works as a sustainable stylist, and I was thinking the same thing, like how can you combine sustainability and trends, because sustainability relies on goods that are made to last, and trends are trends because it's something like you gotta catch momentum. It's something that is now. But I think that's what we have to go a little bit further from trends, because right now, for example, Zara has around 50 collections a year. 50. It's every week they have to release something new. Yeah. Whether before that was 4 seasonal collections, 2 seasonal collections, yeah. And also trends are circular. So something that was trendy before is trendy now. You can buy vintage, and vintage is on trend, And this
I do that sometimes when I visit Portobello's market in London.
Yeah. For example, high-rise jeans, it's very 90s, and everyone is wearing it now, and Zara makes it, and H&M make it. So, and some basic pieces that will never go out of style, like white t-shirt is always trendy because it's a classic, denim jacket, leather jacket, a coat. And if you want to, well, sustainable brands, they also release some trendy items sometimes. Like right now, the bell sleeves are very trendy, like sweaters with back sleeves, and they're cropped.
Yeah.
And sustainable brands make it too. And brands that produce yarns for knitters, they release new patterns, so you can make your own sweater. It's not difficult to be trendy and sustainable. Not as difficult as it seems. Of course, it depends on the region where you live, because, for example, in Asia, in Asian countries, they don't have as many thrift stores and vintage stores as they have in Europe, for example. And I understand that sustainable fashion, when it's new, the price is higher, yeah. But people forget that you can buy something that already exists. Like 80% of my wardrobe is like made of pre-loved clothing, and I don't look like a hobo, right?
No, of course, you look trendy. I have a question: how you can associate sustainable to profitable? I mean, you have to survive. You have to still to buy food, even if we use the Italian message, the slow food movement that you mentioned.
You mean for brand or for consumer?
For brand. I mean, you are also part of the system, I think.
Yeah. Well, for a brand, how to have profit and switch to sustainable practices. If I were a clothing brand, it would be easier for me to answer. But many brands that do not use sustainable fabrics now try to include it in their supply chain. And for example, they start with the collection. They release a sustainable collection. They see which response it gets from their customers, from their audience, and they build little by little on it. And you have to communicate. The big part of it is communicating why you do it and telling the story behind it, not just sharing numbers, but of course, it's gonna make you think. Yeah, you buy a pair of jeans, and to make this pair of jeans, we need to use that much water, and for the sustainable jeans, we use less water because it was a loop cycle.
Yeah. But it costs more. But it costs more because you need new machinery, you need new technology, you need new knowledge and skills.
If you tell, if you share not just numbers but stories, for example, that by producing this item in a new way or remaking our package or whatever, we saved 20,000 trees there, or we plant trees there, or we feed that many people. You have to give not just dry numbers, but attach them to people, to stories, because that's how we relate to each other. So that would be the biggest part that is going to make your customers buy your new sustainable products, is communicating and explaining why it is better for the planet, why it is better for the community, and why it is better for them, because we're all part of the community. Oh, you disappeared for a second. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
As I say, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and the internet is tricky here. So I'm if I'm a mother and I have children, I want to ensure that their future is good and they're going to have clean water and healthy food and clean air to breathe, And I will when I buy something, I will want to make my choice more sustainable, because I want them to live in the world I'm living in. I don't know if I make sense. Tell me if I'm answering.
Yeah, of course. From a certain point of view, yes. Several years ago, 4 or 5, I was involved because I was studying this movement, the movement of circular economy. Produce, waste, reuse. So a closed cycle in terms of production, in terms of industry, and so on. And when I was presenting the project with my team, every time we got a standing ovation, claps, and so on. But then, after we off the records, we got some question. And the main question was, okay, who will finance it? Because it's easy to finance, let me say, an open waste circle than a closed waste circle. I think this is one of the most important question, because even when I like to eat biological things, no, because I'm very careful. I try to avoid to eat not modified, genetically modified goods and so on. And every time I see that the price is 3 times more, 4 times more, so you have to also to think about your budget. And the question that I would like to ask, but I share also my opinion, is that sometimes this became a mode to be a sustainable advocate. I'm not talking about, let me say, in your case, but sometimes people say, I like to eat, I don't know, biological, or I like to be to support these brands. I mean, publicly, and then hiddenly they continue to live their luxury life without thinking about the waste and so on. So, what do you think about it?
I think that, well, yeah, that's a bit ugly. It's still not that bad. It's better than nothing, because let's say a luxury influencer supports 1 time, 2 times a sustainable brand, and then gets back to its luxury goods made by kids in Bangladesh. But from thousands or even millions of people at cost, some people will be impacted by the message and by the story of that sustainable, ethical brand. So even if like 1 person gets back to not ethical, not sustainable living, there will be some people that will start thinking about sustainability. So it's better. And the world needs everyone to be perfectly or whatever. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Sustainable than 1 perfectly sustainable person. And it's just impossible. Like this absolute, it's impossible. Living is unsustainable. We produce waste, humans. So like,
don't you think that also is a cultural issue? So bringing the example of your country, the country where I'm living, no, is Russia. Often where I was presenting some of these projects in to companies and so on, I would say, we don't care about the waste because our country is the biggest one, so we will allocate somewhere and we will forget about it. So do you think that also is a cultural issue? So it depends, for example, Spain, Italy, or the Great Britain is very open to this new trend, because I was spending last summer in the UK, and a city as Brighton, that is one of the most cultural open European city. But even in London, they are even big brands, they are concerned about sustainability, environment, and even social sustainability.
Yeah, I agree that mentality differs from one region to another, but here comes responsibility of the government and media. And who sponsors media in my country? Who controls media in my country? And why
but I think in all the countries, I mean,
yeah, more or less, I agree.
The mainstream is controlled by
yeah, and like it all comes down to green journalism and green blogging, and I don't even know where to start. It's such a topic in itself.
No, just my question is just this: it depends on culture. I mean, or there is something else. Without to enter on the political point of view.
No, I don't want to say that it depends on culture and depends on people, because everyone wants to live in a healthy world and everyone wants to be, most of the people, they want to be good to each other, and they want to do good for communities. So I cannot say that it's the fault of people or it depends on that. Again, it depends on the message that you have in this country. And it's much easier to think, oh, sorry, my screen got dark. It's much easier to switch to sustainability and like change your thinking a little bit when you receive the green message on a regular basis from the media that you used to watch. And for example, my family, they only speak Russian. They don't speak English. So what are they going to read and what are they going to watch? Only things in Russian, you know, and what the message they will be getting there. The message that is, well, not exactly from free media. So of course they're not going to be saying that plastic bags are bad. You have to bring your reusable tote when you go grocery shopping, because someone is getting money from this stupid plastic bags, you know. And it's just a small example, but
of course.
Bigger
scale. But it's an example that have like an impact on daily basis. I questioned that a few weeks ago. The very beginning of this crisis, I'm very fascinated by Armani for his, let me say, his style of communicating the things. He tried to keep also in his collection a low profile, not very eccentric and so on. So I'm very fascinated by this man, and he was telling that I think that this crisis, this pandemic, will lead us to change the approach to the fashion sector. So what is your point of view about it? Something will change in better?
I really hope so. Because a lot of things already changed after Rana Plaza collapse. Because the documentary I mentioned earlier impacted many people. It's on Netflix, and 8 people out of 10 that I talked to in the slow fashion community say that they got into slow fashion because of that documentary. So lots of things changed already. And now during this crisis, brands like Primark, for example, they didn't want to pay their suppliers for orders they made or for some processed orders. And there was a big thing, and there was a campaign. There is a campaign on social media called Pay Up, #PayUp. And customers and consumers, they were demanding the brand to pay, because factories in Asia were left with tons of clothes and goods, and no one was paid for that, and lots of workers were laid off. And I think Primark committed to paying. And some other brands did not, like ASOS. So far as I know, they did not pay. So
I will check, because it's very interesting. This I didn't hear about, but I will check because it's very interesting.
It casts a shadow on these brands, so it's going to force them to change something. And also, almost every business experienced a problem in their supply chains, because something somewhere is closed anyway. So I think it's going to force brands to make their supply chains shorter and more transparent. That's what's going to happen, and which is great, because again, sustainability and ethics, these are two things that go together. And making a supply chain.
Do you think that we will come back on smaller collection and longer seasonal collections, from your point of view?
Hopefully, because this year, I hope. I think it was this year, and I think I'm right. In Stockholm, the Fashion Week was canceled because they said we have to promote sustainability. You know. It's also a big change, because maybe next year Paris will follow. Well, maybe not next year, maybe in 5 years, but that's going to be changing too. And all the trends, they come from these fashion weeks. So even the source of trends and our consumption habits is changing. So of course it's going to change. Yeah. It might get worse before it gets better, because again, most of the sustainable brands, they are small, because you cannot be as big as Zara and be sustainable. You just cannot.
Of course.
If you want to be sustainable, you will not be a billionaire, because to become a billionaire, you have to exploit someone somewhere. And exploitation cannot be part of sustainable fashion.
Sustainable, yes.
Yeah. So it's gonna. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just gonna finish it quickly. I know I'm mumbling. Before it gets better, it will get worse because many slow fashion brands, or not just fashion brands, small brands, they will close. Many local brands will have to close, and many of the brands that were going to incorporate sustainability in their business model, they will have to postpone it because they will have to focus on survival. But on a long run, it's gonna get better, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think yes, but I think that another issue will be sustainability in terms of profit, because if you slow down, of course you will reduce your profit, and of course somebody will pay the side effect of it. So I think timing will show us what is going on. Another thing that I was thinking in these days while we were thinking about this podcast, that another letter maybe should be added to Slow about sustainable vacation, because I think that also this is an issue in this time. So what do you think about it?
You mean sustainable traveling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are many sustainable travel bloggers, and I think it's such a controversial topic because the world is bigger than ever, and you can get from point A to point B within 24 hours, even shorter, even faster. And traveling is never, if you don't walk by feet, it's never sustainable.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult topic. I do not write about sustainable traveling because I haven't been traveling as much as before. Maybe within Spain, and I live in a region not very well communicated with the rest of Spain. So we often travel by car. I'm open about it. I don't try to hide it, and I explain why we choose to travel by car and not by train. So I don't write about it, but there are many other bloggers that write about sustainable traveling, and it's great. And they calculate their carbon footprint, and they compare it to, like, okay, if I travel by plane, my emissions would be this, but we travel by train and my emissions is this. Also, there are brands that, for example, Organic Basics, on their website, you can offset your carbon emissions. So because they partner with some other brand that does it for you. For example, you flew from Madrid to Moscow, and they calculate, and you pay, I don't know, like €3. It's usually not that much. And they use this money to support bees, for example, or to plant trees.
Do you think? Do you think also in some cashback form? So I mean that if you save up in terms of CO2, you will receive some, I don't know, cashback bonus or something like this. There is any company that is working on this model, because sometimes money or discount or something like this is an additional motivation. No? Yes, of course, we should think about sustainability. I mean, maybe don't use car, but if you want to reach, I don't know, the other side of the world, of course you have to use to plan a flight. And I mean, but maybe we can be a sustainable tourist, thinking about, I don't know, let me say, not join a big chain, but join locals. I don't know, let me say hotel or something like this. It can be even, this is a form of sustainability. What do you think?
Yeah, there are more and more sustainable hotels that use reusable source of energy, and they have closed loop cycle, like for water, and they collaborate with local farmers where it's possible. So you have organic food seed to table. This is all great. It's often cost more as well. You know, it's sometimes cheaper to stay in Hilton because they have a promotion than to stay in a local organic hotel boutique. But staying in Airbnb, I think, is a very sustainable option, and it's great. It's just like living in your own apartment, and you can also, I don't know, you can have breakfast home if you want to. You will save money, and you might save some waste as well. And I also don't want people to get the impression like you go on vacation twice a year. I don't want anyone to feel guilty for taking a plane and going somewhere, even if it's, I don't know, New Zealand, Australia, and it's far away. The problem is people that travel often, like businessmen, for example. There is a meeting on Monday, there is a meeting on Wednesday and Friday, and for every meeting they have to fly. This is a problem, and I hope.
But I think this pandemic will change this trend, I think.
I hope so, because I hope the companies will see that many things can be handled online with telemeeting, and you don't need to pay for someone's hotel and lunches and airline ticket, to get shit done. You can just call someone. I hope that this will change.
Okay, Alisa, it was very interesting to talk to you, to see this new world. I think not only for me, and I will keep following you because it's very interesting what you're doing. And as I was telling you off of the records, you're doing in a very nice way, not aggressive as some brands, for example, some other, let me say, influencer does. So it's very kind from you to do it, not be aggressive. So I think it's also you will see your result. I think if you're not already enjoying the result of this strategy. So thank you to everybody who has the pleasure to listen to us, to watch us, and you will find also the audio version on my platform on 1984.
Okay.
So you can enjoy even the audio version of this podcast. So thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.